Hi there, this is Kaushik Ranchod from the Ranchod Law Group. Welcome to our immigration show. I'm an immigration attorney representing clients throughout the United States and the embassies worldwide. I invite you to connect with us, smash the like button, but more importantly, what's this video going to be about that could help you today? Well, what I'm going to talk about is a situation where you've entered without a visa. What can you do? Can you get a green card? Well, that's what I'm going to discuss and answer hopefully some of your questions. So this is specifically where you've entered the United States without a visa. So this is different than when you've overstayed a visa, where you've entered but you have continued to stay in the United States. So that will be a separate video. Let me know in the comments below if that's something you'd be interested in. Right now, what I'm going to talk about is if you entered without a visa. So you, for instance, came in the United States maybe 10 years ago, you've continued to be here. What can you do? So watch the video until the very end, because I'm going to talk about one very specific avenue that we help many clients with to help them get a green card. If you haven't already, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe so you can continue to get these videos. So let's talk about what do you do? Well, I'm going to talk about the I-601A waiver, and I'm going to give you a case study of how we were able to get one of our clients a green card, so you can see if this is something that might be of value to you. Now, there are a few different ways for you to get a green card if you've entered without a visa. One way is a U visa if you've ever been the victim of a violent crime and cooperated with the police. I'm not going to talk about that in this video. However, I've created videos on this on my channel, so I invite you to check it out. There's also something called parole in place. If you have a family member who is served in the military, you may qualify for this. In this video, we're going to be talking about the I-601A waiver. Now, first of all, let's look at, do you qualify for an I-601A waiver? So you may qualify for an I-601A waiver if, one, you have a US citizen or lawful permanent resident spouse, or you have a US citizen or lawful permanent resident parent. All right, so awesome. You meet those requirements. Let's dive into this video. Now, let's say, okay, you're like, oh shoot, I don't meet those requirements. Then go check out the other videos, post in the comments below, and I hope you do meet one of those requirements, because I'm going to talk to you about how we were able to get this case approved. Now, in order to be able to get this waiver, basically the government's saying, well, you entered without a visa, so there needs to be a waiver for that entry. Now, in order to qualify, you have to demonstrate extreme hardship to the qualifying relative, which I mentioned earlier. So that extreme hardship is extremely important, and you have to demonstrate extreme hardship or your case will not be approved. So what we do in our cases is we prepare a detailed argument explaining the extreme hardships. We work a lot with our clients on making sure we have the appropriate documentation that supports the arguments that we're going to make, and every case is unique because everyone has a unique story. So let's talk about a real life situation that we were able to get this case approved. So I'm going to dive into that. In this case study that I'm going to talk about, I'm going to change the names of our clients for their privacy. So I'm going to call them Patrick and Adriana. So Patrick and Adriana, we had a consultation. We assessed their case, and by evaluating their life story and facts of their life, we were able to determine they qualified for I-601A waiver. We thought that they had enough hardships to qualify, and we proceeded forward. Now, in Adriana's situation, she came to the United States in 2004 to make a better life for herself, like many of you may have. After she entered the United States, she met Patrick in 2005. They got married in 2006. Now we're going to look at the hardships of Patrick's life and why we were able to get this case approved. So Patrick was previously married, and he unfortunately lost his wife, and it's unfortunately a sad story. Patrick lost his wife to leukemia in 2003, and he was by his wife's side for the year that she was suffering through that, watching her slowly wither away. And because of this, he developed a medical condition himself. And basically that medical condition made him have severe anxiety and have a fear of losing his life, a fear of death, because his life was permanently altered by watching his wife pass away, and also watching her deteriorate with leukemia. This illness is called thanatophobia, and it's something where you get panic attacks, and it's something where you just have this extreme fear. After his wife passed, he was a single father of 5 kids. So if any of you know how much work having kids are and how much joy they are, well, imagine being a single parent to 5 kids. So that he also had a full-time job. He had severe panic attacks that were increasing, and severe anxiety. When he met Adriana in 2005, she was like an answer to his prayers. His panic attacks were able to decrease. So you can see how the relationship that they had helped reduce the psychological conditions that he was facing. That was one of the arguments that we were able to make in our waiver brief. When they got married, Adriana really took the children, the 5 kids, as her own. She quit her job, she looked after the kids, and then Patrick focused on his full-time job. As you can see, Adriana brought an emotional balance to their life, both emotionally, financially, and you could even say spiritually. It was something that touched him, that made him be able to move on. So you can imagine what would happen if they were separated. If she was forced to go to Mexico, you could see that his whole life would fall to pieces. Now I want to talk a little bit about the approach that we took to get the case approved. So the first step that we do is we first of all discuss all of your hardships with you. So then the next thing is making sure that we get all of the necessary documents to support the hardship. So in this situation, Patrick had this medical condition, so it was getting all of the medical documents to support the condition. Actually, just yesterday, one of our team members met with a client, and their case was previously denied because that attorney did not ensure that there was supporting documentations for the argument. So that was one of the reasons the case was denied. So this is extremely important that you have supporting documentation, because USCIS is not going to take your word for what your hardships are. It needs to be backed up by hard evidence. The next thing that we did was we collected financial documentation to demonstrate the financial hardship that Patrick would face if Adriana were to return to Mexico. So this is also extremely important as well, supporting the financial documentation. We like to break it down to show the expenses versus the income and how there would be a deficit through this hardship, supporting all of that through the documentation and then outlined in our argument. In this situation, Patrick would either have to have had quit his job to take care of his 5 children or pay for childcare, which would be very expensive. So that was another argument we added to the hardship. Now, this case had very good facts to support an extreme hardship waiver. Most of our cases do not have this good of facts, and we take more challenging cases on as well, and we've been successful with those cases as well. So I invite you to connect with us if you have questions to see if you qualify for a hardship waiver. Now I'm going to move on to another case to contrast and give you a little bit more of an insight of how we were able to get another case approved. In this case, we did a deep dive into our client's health. We first of all looked at all the hardships, and we found health was one of the major hardships, and we found that they had a rare medical condition that would not be adequately treated if they had to return to Mexico with their spouse. Then we also argued financial hardship, career hardship, good employment in the United States, also significant student loan debt. This is an added factor that wasn't in the prior case that I talked about. Now, in this situation, the client needed the joint income to repay the student debt, and if they were separated from their US citizen spouse, they would not be able to do that. Then the other form of hardship we argued was psychological, not just mere separation, but the hardship of having to raise the children on her own as a single mother if they were separated. And we combine all these factors to get that case approved. So you can see here that the I-601A waiver it's a very good option for you if you have been, or if you're in the United States and you need to find a path to permanent residency. Now you might be wondering, okay, this sounds good. What's the process? So the initial step is first filing what's called an immediate relative petition, demonstrating you have a real relationship. That is known as the I-130 petition. Then we move on. And the next step is going to be filing the brief after you have the National Visa Center fees paid. And that's where we file the legal argument with USCIS with all the supporting documentation. This is the most difficult part of the case because this is where you have to demonstrate extreme hardship. This is where we see, unfortunately, clients coming to us where we see denials and we have to fix the problem. Sometimes we're able to fix it. Sometimes the damage is so great that we're not able to fix it. And this is where you need those extensive arguments to demonstrate extreme hardship. Otherwise, it may not get approved. So after the I-601A is approved, then you move on to the National Visa Center processing. That is where you have to demonstrate that you're going to be able to adequately support the person that you're bringing into the United States. Not only that, there's the DS-260 and other documentation that needs to be submitted. And that affidavit of support can be a tricky form. If you're not meeting the affidavit of support financial requirements of being 125% of the poverty guidelines, you can get a joint sponsor. That is a possibility for you. So I don't want that to be something that makes you feel like you're not going to be able to pursue this process. The joint sponsor does need to be a permanent resident. They do need to be a US citizen spouse. After the National Visa Center process is complete, then finally it will be scheduled for an interview in the home country, in your home country. And then you'll have the interview. At the interview, they want to make sure that your relationship's real, that you don't have any other grounds of inadmissibility. So that could be, for instance, criminal issues. If you have any criminal issues, you should talk to an immigration attorney. That could be something of health-related grounds. If you are a habitual drunkard or drug user, this could also come out, and that comes out sometimes in the medical. That's the last step of the process. Most of our cases where they have the interview abroad successfully get the green card and come back into the United States. You'll get a temporary visa stamp on your passport, I-551 stamp, and then your green card will be mailed to you if you were successful at the interview. So that is it, my friends. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, for bettering yourself. And by bettering yourself, you're bettering your family. And by bettering your family, you're bettering the world. Bye for now.